We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Get notified. Ring that notification bell. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends if you want to support this college football's rebel outpost, the home for the true college football sickos. With a donation, help us keep the lights on. Just hit that $ where you make your comment, and I'll get to your super chat as quick as possible. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend. Let me start off this live show. I'm going to get my Minnesota Golden Gopher propaganda out of the way. Let's just get this out of the way. Tony Petitti, Silent Tony. I know what's coming. I know you're going to screw my Golden Gophers once again. Once again, when it comes to the ball games, it happens every single year. We never get elevated to a higher bowl than our standings, but oftentimes we get devalued when it comes to where we should be going in the Big Ten bowl game. I know what's going to happen. Now, these people here in the PATC family, They believe I am the original Minnesota moron. But you know that I know. That you know that I know that you know that I know that you know that I know. Minnesota Golden Gophers, who, look, for the large part of the season, we were lousy. I have not been coming up on here and giving any Golden Gopher propaganda. We have been lousy for most of the season. However, if I look at the Big Ten standings, we Minnesota Golden Gophers, we finished ahead of Penn State. We did. I'm sorry we did. But that's not even my grievance tonight. That is not even my grievance tonight. I'm okay with Penn State going and playing the Pinstripe Bowl. That makes all the sense in the world. Go ahead and play the Pittsburgh Panthers. Go ahead. I'm okay with that. But once again, you are going to put the Minnesota Golden Gophers in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl in that Phoenix, Arizona baseball field again, where there should not be a bowl game anyways being played on 9:30 Central Time on December 26th in that baseball field in which the Minnesota Golden Gophers defeated West Virginia Mountaineers years back, a couple years ago, in that slop of a baseball field in which the Mountaineers and the Golden Gophers could not even stand up on that field. And now you got the Golden Gophers going back to that dump to play, probably, most likely, Kansas State. While Nebraska Cornhuskers are going to play in the Vegas Bowl against LSU. Nebraska, who the Golden Gophers finished ahead of Nebraska in the standings and thumped Nebraska on a head-to-head football game, and you're going to put Nebraska in Vegas against LSU with Lane Kiffin watching? That should be PJ Fleck and the Gophers. Now, Nebraska, who has not finished above 500 in the Big Ten conference play for 9 straight years. The Minnesota Golden Gophers have been in the Big Ten since 1896 and has never gone 9 straight years finishing below 500 in Big Ten play. 8 years, a couple of times, but never 9. And Nebraska's been here long enough to get a couple of coffee, and they've gone 9 straight years. The Gophers have beaten Nebraska how many times in a row? I don't even know what the number is anymore. How many bowl games has Minnesota won in a row? I don't know what that number is anymore because it's way up there. Beyond my Minnesota math to be able to compute that number. And then, well, great. Don't you understand? It's the brand. It's the fan base. The Gopher fan base, while small, does travel in bowl games. We would fill up that Vegas Tony Petitti. Nothing's been announced. Nothing is public. But I know that you know that I know that you know that I know. And it doesn't sit well. If this was like the only time that it's happened, or like the only second time that it's happened, okay, I would acquiesce. But this always happens to the Minnesota Golden Gophers. You've already got internal strife going on in that conference. And you're going to bury my beloved Golden Gophers once again. Nobody has shown up for this live show to listen to me bitch and moan about the Golden Gophers' plight in the bowl games. But I had to get out that. I had to start off the show with that. I'm not going to mention again tonight. Nothing has been made public. But I know that you know, Tony, that I know that you know that I know. Okay, now. Woo! Yeah. And look, you are correct, Grant. Greg, if you guys played in the Vegas Bowl, you'd play Utah. And I get it. And Utah would run for over 300 yards against the Gophers. But they're going to run for over 350 yards against Nebraska. All right? All right? Nebraska just fired the defensive coordinator today. Utah, what are they finishing? Third or fourth in the Big 12? What's the official? Third or fourth? They're going to be playing Nebraska, who finished, 10th in the Big 10? Anyways, we're not going to Vegas. That's the problem. We are not going to Vegas. We are going to go to Arizona once again to play in that pile of bleep down there in that baseball stadium. All right, we've got news all over the place. I want to thank you all for joining us. Let me do a roll call. We haven't done one of those in a while. MBM, Go Pokes, Eric Morris. The Cowboys are excited. Don Scruggs, Georgia's got an SEC Conference Championship game coming up. Nick Kelso, Go Hogs. The Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, look, there was a big blowback when they hired Silverfield. Hopefully that is being settled down a little bit. We'll see what happens. We'll see what type of coaching staff Silverfield gets there in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Kenneth Strom, this BYU Cougar. We are going to be talking about the BYU Cougars tonight. Certified Caveman is in the house. We are. Rich Austin is here. Rodney Richborg. Go Tigers. Lane Kiffin. A lot of excitement down in Baton Rouge, and there should be. Very great offensive mind. But you know what? I'm starting to believe that those with great offensive minds being head coaches, it's like a great I better not use that analogy. If you're great at something, sometimes you're missing something else, like self-awareness. I think that maybe Lane Kiffin, as great of a head coach he has become, and he has a great offensive mind, I think he lacks some self-awareness. And so does another great offensive mind that happens to be a head coach of an SEC football team, and that is Josh Heupel. We are going to get into his comment today that I had to take a double take to see if I was reading that correctly. Holy smokes, Josh Heupel. What are you talking about? Kirk Bender is in the house. Rod is here. Kayla Ramirez, Mr. Buckeye, Chef Maul. If your head coach leaves your team, why should you go to the playoff? I think you should be able to go to the playoffs. I think if you lose your starting quarterback, you should be able to get to the playoffs. I think if you lose your starting left tackle, your All-American running back, it's about what you have done on the field, not not other things. That's what should be. But I get the Florida State. Look, I get it. They were absolutely screwed. And I think Ole Miss would be absolutely screwed if they were subjected to not making the playoffs. Bruce Harris is in the house. Bucket is here. Jose is here. Yes. The athletic director of LSU. They're going to shoot missiles at us. Very interesting. Bob Swanger is in the house. Peter Johnson, I told you, Greg, I got a lot of people telling me a lot of things constantly. I can't remember them all. Okay. Carson Pittman is in the house. No singing. My daughter is scratching her nails on the chalkboard and it's better. Holy smokes. Wow. Aww. I may have to start singing because of that, Bruce Harris. I might have to start singing. Be careful. Be careful what you don't wish for. Ryan Brooks is in the house. Go Tigers and welcome to Party Lane. Holy smokes. Ryan Thomas. Sitake is rumored to have an extension in place to be approved tomorrow by the Board of Trustees. Ryan Thomas. Fantastic hire by Penn State if true. Needs time to build inroads in Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. Terry Hanley's in the house. Bob Swanger, this would not be a good hire. Minnesota should not be in the playoffs. Bruce Harris, you're knocking them out of the park today. You're really doing a good job in the chat room. Fantastic 71 Big E's. Congrats, Greg, on Gophers keeping the axe. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. What's up, Greg? What's up, Big Gun Shop? What is up? What is up? The Almighty Finn is in the house. We did not get much here in Minnesota, but we are going to get some snow here in the near future. I mean, we've gotten a lot, but not today. Deadeye, yo, Greg, yo, Deadeye. Thanks for coming on in. Appreciate it. MW Troop. It's a bowl has no meaning. A lot of players opt out. If it doesn't have any meaning, let the Gophers go to Las Vegas. If the bowl game doesn't have any meaning, why are the Golden Gophers the program that the Big Ten screws historically all the time? If it doesn't mean anything, let us go to the Citrus Bowl. If it doesn't mean anything. Unbelievable. Iowa Hawkeye, unbelievable. Daniel Gorby is in the house. The other Gygax is here. Rod Nix, Dave B. Thank you for covering, Greg, though. Tough to watch. Well, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen. I did know late last night that all that talk was actually serious. That a door was open to us last night. You know, we've all heard the rumors. We've read the reports about Kalane Sitake. Late last night, I was told, yes, it's actually, the talks actually happening. So it was serious. So today on the X account, I put it out there. Yes, it's serious. We basically can confirm that. About a half an hour after we put our X account out there, I'll show you guys the post. Football Scoop put out a bunch of people put out the same information. The word was, it was being confirmed everywhere. The leakage had begun. And I think it got leaked. Well, I don't need to talk about that right now, but it did get leaked. And it does not mean that Kalane Sitake is going to become the head coach of Penn State. I think that is unknowable. I really do. Even if there is a memorandum of understanding between Sitake and Penn State, it's really unknowable until it's done. I'll give you an example. It was written in the Los Angeles Times article about the USC story being broke. They also wrote about the time that we broke the PJ Fleck in Minnesota story at Minnesota 247 when I wrote about it. I put down a 216-hour countdown clock to Tracy Claeys getting fired from Minnesota. 216 hours, and I put it on there on the Minnesota 247 board. We had a whole bunch of information was open to us, and I was given the go-ahead to put it down, and I got the okay from the owner, Ryan Burns. So I put it down there, and I also included the information that PJ Fleck was going to be the number one target of Minnesota. The number one target of Minnesota. I did not say that PJ Fleck was going to become the head coach of Minnesota, because we had no idea PJ Fleck was going to agree to the terms. This was back on December 25th, 2016. But I did report that PJ Fleck was going to be the number one target and that Minnesota was going to give him about a 48, 72-hour window. During all that time, Tracy Claeys, on December 27th, 2016, Minnesota beat Washington State Cougars, and then they went to 9-4, and people thought I was completely nuts that we were going to fire Tracy Claeys. But I kept reporting that because we knew we had the information. There was a lot of stuff going on in the program that I'm not going to talk about tonight. But we knew that Mark Coyle was going to fire Tracy Claeys. Or I think he had like one more year on a contract. It wasn't much of a firing. It was basically, bye, we're going to go get another coach. The day that it all went down, that he got fired, Mark Coyle went up to the Board of Regents and said, we're going to fire Tracy Claeys, and we're going to get a new coach for our football program. And the Board of Regents all clamored and said, no, you can't do that. We're not going to allow you to fire Tracy Claeys. This is for all the people who believe that the Board of Regents should be running your athletic departments. Jordan Acker and likes of that. And the Board of Regents were like, no. And Mark Coyle tried to politely say to them, there are things that you don't know. It's my job as the athletic director. I need to pull the trigger on this. I'm paraphrasing. And the Board of Regents said, nope. Not going to happen. During that day that I had put down the 216-hour countdown clock, the countdown clock on the message 247 Minnesota Golden Gophers message board, it went beyond the 216-hour. But it had not been reported in public yet why the countdown clock went past the 216 hours. So I was getting shredded by the whole Gopher community. But we knew what was going on, but I had to keep my mouth shut at that time. Couple hours later, President Kaler came in front of the Board of Regents and said, I hired Mark Coyle to make these decisions. These decisions are not in the hands of the Board of Regents. It's in the hands of Mark Coyle. Then Mark Coyle came up and said, okay, now the Board of Regents had to acquiesce. Mark Coyle made it official. Tracy Claeys was no longer the head coach of the Golden Gophers. The very next, so it happened in 220 hours, not the 216 hours. We were 4 hours off on our countdown clock because of the Board of Regents. The next day, it was reported everywhere else in local media and national media that PJ Fleck was the number one target. But I did not know that PJ Fleck was going to take the job. It was impossible to know that. Long story short, Kalane Sitake is the number one target. And I don't know how long he has been the number one target. But he was last night. The door was open to us. Later, this was, I don't know what time, this was not too long ago, a couple hours ago. On 3, BYU's Kalane Sitake has emerged as Penn State's top target to become the Nittany Lions' next head coach. Brett McMurphy, Pete Knuckles, Chris Lowe, other people reporting on 3. So he's the top target. It doesn't mean it's a done deal. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. But it does mean, and this is very, very important, it does mean that the other potential candidates know where they stand. They know it's Kalane Sitake at the very top, which probably, I cannot 100% confirm this, but probably had something to do with the breaking news of earlier that James Madison, Coach Bob Chesney, has emerged as the target for UCLA's coaching search. He is set to sign a 5-year deal with UCLA that will emerge after James Madison's Sun Belt Championship game. UCLA has agreed for him to coach in the CFP if James Madison makes it. And if James Madison defeats Troy and Duke defeats Virginia, I think there's a very good chance that James Madison is going to be in the playoffs. All right. And then, of course, we got the Fitzgerald, the Michigan State. I don't know if Pat Fitzgerald was ever really a target for Penn State. And then we got Josh Heupel. Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel tells Chris Lowe that he's not a candidate for Penn State. I wouldn't want low expectations. What? That's a part of why I want to be here. We'll win big. I wouldn't want low expectations. I wouldn't want low expectations. He's talking about Penn State having low expectations. Woo, boy. But again, Josh Heupel tells Chris Lowe that he's not a candidate. Not that he never was a candidate. Not that his agent never talked to Penn State. But he's not a candidate. And he's not going to be a candidate. Because the reality is, and everybody knows, now they know, that BYU Kalane Sitake is the top target. And he is. And I do not know. I can give you a little bit of an educated guess. This probably became real at least a couple of weeks ago. But a door was not open to us until late last night. I put it out here on X at 11:42 a.m. Central Time. Kalane Sitake to Penn State may not happen, and it may not happen. But it's steam based on real fire when it comes to this possibility. In other words, I was trying to communicate to you all that it's real. It's a real thing. This is not rumor, and I don't believe this is only a leverage play by Sitake. I think we're beyond that. Sitake might get way more money from BYU and stay at BYU. But this is a serious, serious interest from both sides. Penn State has other options, and I believe they do. I think one of the options that Penn State has is Louisville's head coach, is Georgia Tech's head coach, an NFL former head coach, and possible current coordinator. I also said that Penn State has other options, keeping head down, same with Sitake. How this all should be done in this condensed, ridiculous college football calendar. So, we'll see what happens. I'm interested to get your comments and your phone calls on this Kalane Sitake to Penn State. Is it going to happen? Do you think Penn State, do you think this is what they should be doing? I am of the opinion, and I have been saying this all year long and last year, but really this year, that BYU football program, that BYU football team is a damn good football team. They are really good. And now look, a lot of people have a lot of good reasons why they believe that BYU should be in the playoffs no matter what happens in their game against Texas Tech. And I give all those people all the grace. They have very good points. Same thing with Miami. Same thing with Notre Dame. Same thing with Vanderbilt. I think Utah is one hell of a team. I think Tony Petitti's absolutely correct when he says we have given the committee an impossible task. But regardless of that, this BYU football team should be part of the playoffs. Because this playoff format is obsolete. This football team is one hell of a football team. And yes, a lot of great talent on the football team. But it is also a very well-coached football team. I have been saying that almost weekly on this program. Maybe the BYU Cougar fans, they know what a great coach Sitake is. For those outside of BYU country, and I have been saying this almost every week, if you watch a BYU football team, they've gotten down in a few of those games, right? They get behind, but you can tell it doesn't bother them. They're not under pressure. They don't start to press. They don't make any mistakes. As far as I don't watch every BYU football game. I don't watch every 60 minutes of a BYU football game. I've watched a lot of their games, and they don't have problems with getting people on the football field, out the football field, put it in packages. They're not creating all these pre-snap penalties. They're not making all these bonehead mistakes. They are surgical. They keep going. They keep grinding. Defense. They don't have all these missed tackles. They don't have all these blown assignments. They don't have all these face masks. They don't have all these holding penalties. They don't have all these issues. They have a true freshman quarterback who came in late, who seems to have everything figured out on day one. Now, of course, he didn't, but it's called development. It's called a coaching staff. It's called a culture. For all of those reasons, I cannot blame Penn State at all for going after him, or at least having him be one of their top targets. I mean, outside of BYU country, somebody's got to be seeing what I'm seeing. And they are seeing what I'm seeing. They are seeing what BYU country is seeing. This is a finely tuned machine that Kalane Sitake has built at BYU. Now, so I understand Penn State's involvement here. And you can imagine, again, I don't know Kalane Sitake like a lot of you know Kalane Sitake, but I listening to him talk and communicate and talk about his players and talk about his program, talk about his love of BYU, you can imagine in the interview process, because they have spoken, Kalane Sitake and Penn State have spoken. This is not just an agent talking to Penn State. You can imagine that Penn State has fallen more and more and more in love with Sitake. So from Penn State's point of view, I understand everything that they are doing, even though Kalane Sitake has not coached or been in the northeast part of this country. I still see the value and why Penn State is doing this. From Kalane Sitake's point of view, that is where I personally am struggling a little bit with this. The pro side of it for Kalane Sitake, the part that I understand why Kalane Sitake would be open to this, is because, first of all, it's Penn State. You know, Penn State is a monster of a program. It is gigantic in scope. It is the monster up in the northeast of this country. And if you as a head coach, you have an opportunity to land a job like Penn State, most head coaches during their lifetimes, during their coaching career, would have never imagined themselves to have that opportunity. It could be once in a lifetime opportunity. Number one, I'm not disrespecting BYU. I'm going to say a lot of good things about BYU in a moment here, but Penn State is Penn State. And number two, Penn State being a part of the Big Ten, P2, we don't know what the future is. A lot of these institutions are trying to get the higher ground, so are the head coaches. And one of the things that the head coaches are always thinking about is, if I just had a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, I could really contend for the national championship, and I need to scratch my itch. Those are the reasons why maybe Kalane Sitake has an interest in this. I do not know of any relationship, any connections between Sitake and Kraft previous. I don't know if there's any connections between Penn State and Sitake in the past. But Kalane Sitake has a very good thing going at BYU. He has earned everything that he has gotten. BYU has earned everything that they have gotten. BYU now sits at the very top of the Big 12 pyramid when it comes to credibility and brand and now resources. Everybody is bought in on BYU. Everybody is bought in, and Kalane Sitake now is at the point where he doesn't have to sit there and deposit into the credible bank. Now he can take withdrawals. In other words, in recruiting, in the portal, going after talent, not just players but coaches. Now he can give this to everybody and say, just take a look at what we have done. Take a look at what we have done. And look where we're going. Man, that is a lot of work, a lot of success to get to that point. And Kalane Sitake is now, he is the captain of this well-oiled machine. Not to mention, he's got himself a quarterback who's going to be around probably for 3 more years. A quarterback that you can visualize being a Big 12 champion. It could happen 6 days from now. And Kalane Sitake is beloved at BYU. That part of the country he knows well. He knows how to recruit that part of the country. His values, his beliefs match what BYU can offer him and what he can offer BYU. So that is what I'm struggling with. Is there something else going on that Kalane Sitake would be this interested for this process to get this far? Is it just that Kalane Sitake needs to scratch the itch? He needs to know what it's all about coaching at one of the top, a blue blood program, Penn State. Does he need to scratch that itch? Is there something that he has wanted at BYU that he's not getting? Is he not getting the pay raises for his coaching staff? Does Sitake see limitations in recruiting? Because they don't have limitations in their NIL. Does Sitake see limitations when it comes to being a part of the Big 12? Looking at the playoff format and the axis? Is there something that is lacking for Kalane Sitake? I don't know. I see a guy who's got the machine running on time. BYU football is a threat right now. Does he see limitations? Or is it just about because this is Penn State? And if Kalane Sitake decides to stay at BYU, he's never going to have an opportunity at Penn State ever again. He's never going to have an opportunity at Ohio State. He's most likely never going to have an opportunity at Michigan or Georgia or Alabama. In other words, when he thinks about this, this is my one shot, most likely, my one shot at being at the helm of a top monster program in a top monster conference. And then he's got to think to himself, James Franklin could not get Penn State over the top, but I think I can. Or he would not be seriously considering the job. All right. I want to hear your thought. I want to hear your thoughts. But just to go through this real quick, Chesney is going to be the new head coach of UCLA. A big, big hire. A big, big, gigantic hire for UCLA. Big time hire. Nick Marsh is in the portal. And you know what? Even though Michigan State now has got Fitzgerald, I don't blame Nick Marsh for going in the portal. No disrespect to Spartan fans in the chat room, but Nick Marsh is a very talented wide receiver. He reminds me of a lot of Cal Coleman of Auburn, where you are a top flight receiver, but you're not getting top flight quarterbacking. Nick Marsh, he deserves an opportunity to play with a quarterback that can help him get into the NFL. A lot of programs, top programs, are going to be going after Nick Marsh. No question about it. And then I want to get to this before we get to your phone calls. I see there's some super chats. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, MBM, Buck Wargo, and Carson. I appreciate you super chats. I will get to them in a moment. Thank you so very much. Thank you for your kindness. Appreciate it. Penn Portnoy of Sports Business Journal put out this post earlier today. Nick Saban, being essentially an advisor in this process, makes the game day spiel from him in Herb Street, insisting Kiffin be allowed to coach Ole Miss in the CFP and blaming everyone but Lane all the more cringy. Just an unnecessary own goal from everyone involved on that front. And this is from Nicole Auerbach and everybody else reporting on what Lane Kiffin said in the press conference. Lane Kiffin says that Nick Saban told him to take the LSU job. So Nick Saban is spending all this time talking about how Ole Miss should allow Lane Kiffin to coach that program in the playoffs. Kirk Herbstreit kicking in. Everybody at College Game Day saying the same thing. While at the same time, Nick Saban is influencing Lane Kiffin to take the LSU job. That's not cool. That is not ethical in any way. I think we all can agree with that. Either Nick Saban had to recuse himself from advising Lane Kiffin, or he had to recuse himself from giving his opinion on game day, or at least, while giving your opinion on game day, letting everybody know what you were telling Lane Kiffin to take the job. But you can't do both and not be transparent about it. This is what pisses college football fans off about ESPN. And it's not just about this subject. It's about a whole host of subjects. There is a machine, there is a narrative that they're pushing constantly at ESPN. And I've been calling them out. I've been calling out these college football reporters because they're not being transparent. They're dealing from the bottom of the deck. They're not dealing from the top of the deck. And a lot of people, Greg, you got to quit whining about it. All right, well, again, I'm just giving another example of this. Another example of this. This time, it was Ole Miss that was getting the dirty deed by ESPN. Oh, they should let this guy coach their team in the playoffs. Oh, by the way, Lane Kiffin, you should go to LSU. Not cool, Nick Saban. Not cool at all. And again, my 92, soon-to-be 93-year-old mother is a great fan of Nick Saban in Alabama. So I say this knowing that my 92-year-old mother is going to come down on me like a ton of bricks. But that is not cool, Nick Saban. Not cool at all. And I can say this because I got no strings attached here at Peek Around the Corner. I don't have to. I'm not getting. Jimmy Sexton is not my agent. My boss is the little general. So, anyways, all right. Let's get to it. Let's get to your phone calls. Let me get to the very kind super chats here. MBM super chat. Mr. Oklahoma State Cowboy is winning the axe just for show. Here's Johnny. Is winning the axe just for show? I don't know what you mean by that. Maybe I'm missing something here. The axe is a very important game. I don't know how it's not just for show. It is bragging rights for the whole year. We have played each other, Minnesota and Wisconsin, 135 times. 135 times. And the game was important to my father. He just passed away a couple of years ago at age 93. It's been a very important generation after generations. Not just for show. That's the best way I can answer it. Thank you for the $10 holler, MBM. I very much appreciate it. We got another super chat. Buck Wargo. The Vegas tourism officials here want Nebraska because those goobers will blow more money here than the smart people of Minnesota. Yes, probably. That's probably accurate. But again, and I'm not gonna argue the value of the Cornhusker fan base being less than the Gopher fan. Everybody knows that the Nebraska fan base is much, much larger and valuable at Nebraska than it is at Minnesota. And we know the reasons why. Two completely different states. But it's not like the Gopher fans do not travel. They go to bowl games. They go on these road trips. But I get your point. But you know what? The Big Ten has got to look out for Minnesota at some point. My God. We go to bowl games every year, and we win those bowl games. One of these times, they got to elevate us over... if they're going to demote us, like they often do, when it comes to the bowl tie-ins, they're giving us the lesser bowl. One of these times they should elevate the Gophers. But they never do it. They only drop us down a notch or two. And they're doing it again this year. This is not public. It has not been reported. It's not public. But I know, Tony Petitti, I know what you're doing. I know everybody. There are certain people that know what's about to happen in Minnesota. We're going to get screwed again. Thank you for the $5 holler, Buck Wargo. I appreciate it. We've got another super chat. Carson 369. Ooh, I don't know about this one. Carson 369, if Penn State doesn't get Sitake, the athletic director needs to be fired. Thank you for the $2 holla, Carson. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you, Buck Wargo, MBM. I don't agree on that. I don't agree. I'm not sure why you think that. I think you go after your number one target, and if you don't get them, you try to get your number two target, you try to get your number three target, and they must think Kalane Sitake is worth this. And you know, Kalane Sitake has probably given a very strong indication to Penn State that he is very interested. Sometimes you got to go down the road to see where it ends up. It's just like this Big Ten thing with the investment fund. People say Tony Petitti handled it all wrong. Tony Petitti should never have gone down this road unless he could get all 18 schools. Well, sometimes you don't know unless you try. You don't know if all 18 schools are going to sign on. You don't know if Kalane Sitake is going to sign the deal. But you can't have the fear of rejection make it so you don't go after your top target. I have to believe that Kraft and Penn State has Plan B. Has Plan B ready to go and Plan C ready to go. And I would strongly suggest that Jeff Brom is one of those Plan Bs or Plan Cs. So I don't agree with that. But thank you for your opinion, Carson 369. I very much appreciate it. Greg, do Gopher fans travel to bowl games? Yes. Do you know why? Because we got to get out of this damn cold. Our winters start early in Minnesota and they end late. So yes, any excuse to get out of this tundra, we do. We go. We absolutely go. Oh, I did not know. Is that official? Is that breaking news? Kentucky is hiring Will Stein? Is that official? Does somebody have a link to that? Did that happen while I was doing this live show? I do not see that announcement. If somebody has a link, send it to me. I do not see that announcement. I'm not saying that has not happened, but I do know there was a report that Kentucky's top targets are Will Stein and Hartline from Ohio State. Now, we do have Liam Blutman from Barstool Sports. We've got some reporting from him. Let's get to that right now. Well, I'm not going to report that. How about this? BYU's offer to Kalane Sitake would make him the Big 12's highest paid coach. An aggressive NIL budget that would get BYU close to Texas Tech. Again, Sitake badly wants to compete for a national title in college football playoff rankings. Slighting BYU have mattered deeply to him. So BYU getting slighted has mattered deeply to Kalane Sitake. Pete Thamel 10 minutes ago. Okay, Ross reported it. Chris G. I have given you warning after warning after warning after warning about not trolling this program. In other words, in other news, Greg ignores in just a few days, Virginia Tech's recruitment ranking has gone from 124 to below 50. And today could be the greatest day of flips ever. Chris G, my comments about Virginia Tech and Virginia in regards to realignment is not, of course, you've taken my words and you've taken it all wrong. You think all I'm doing is burying Virginia Tech's football brand, and that is not, you keep coming in here and you keep making the same comments. I've explained them to you, and then you say, yes, Greg, I understand, and then you come more with this. This is your final warning on your continuous spamming of the board when it comes to your Virginia Tech and you being somehow so sensitive to think that Virginia could possibly have interest from P2 above your Virginia Tech Hokies. It's never been about the football brand on that score, and I've explained it to you. You say you understand, and then you come more with this stuff. This is your last warning. Very last warning. I don't believe that is to be true. Sitake may not be really interested in Penn State. I think he really is interested in Penn State. I really do think he is. Or he was. Breaking news on 3. Kentucky is hiring offensive coordinator Will Stein, Pete Knuckles. Thank you guys for keeping your head on a swivel and let me know that. Thank you guys. Kentucky is hiring Oregon's offensive coordinator Will Stein. Wow. That is huge news. That is a completely different type of hire for Kentucky. Wow. Now, what is the news on Will Stein? Is he going to be able to be the offensive coordinator for Oregon during the playoffs? I'm reading the article. It doesn't say it. Will Stein, pro-style offense, but with spread principles, RPOs, run action pass, play action pass. Wow, big breaking news. Big breaking news. Thank you guys. I've got a whole bunch of people sending me Will Stein. Thank you guys. Pete Thamel, appreciate it. Appreciate it. Yes, I did read this earlier today. Crumbles CEO, some people are not replaceable. Sounds like it is time for me to get off the sidelines and get to work. Jason McGowan, CEO of Crumble Cookies, booster at BYU. I read that as well a while back. Okay, we got an answer. We've got an answer. Will Stein, according to John Casano, per Pete Thamel, Will Stein is expected to call the plays at Oregon during the college football playoffs. Okay, we got an answer to that. Wow, that is big news. Big news. USC, Jose, Ducks, why he reacts. This is a travesty in worst possible timing. Tom DeBay, it's interesting how many SEC jobs have gone to the American G5 coaches and now coordinator. So is Texas Tech on the short list for the Big Ten yet? Nope. I don't think so. Yep, I got it too, Master. Thank you. Thank you, Kono Border. Appreciate it. How long before Penn State shifts towards the Heartline? Heartline, Jeff Brom. I think Jeff Brom might be plan B, but we're going to find out. Husker Magic. I've heard a report that Penn State has offered Kalane Sitake $11.7 million plus $10 million for his coaching staff. That is a lot of money. That is a huge amount of money. I really do believe that Sitake does have interest. That it's not just a leverage ploy. I don't think he's playing. Look, Sitake, he knows that BYU is going to counter offer. That's all good. That's good for Sitake, right? But I don't think he's gone this far down the path just to have a leverage. I think he's serious about it. Okay, let's open up the phone lines. Phone lines now open. 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Let me know what you all are thinking. Will Stein, a Kentucky native, the new head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats. Rick, the floor is yours.
Trying to keep track of all the breaking news.
Yeah, yes, we are, once again. Yeah.
Before I forget about it, I was always understood it to be that the bowls themselves pick the schools. And that really the conference doesn't have a say in it, except for the bowl is designated for two conferences, so that and they rotate the priority list, the pecking order, so that if the Las Vegas Bowl is pecking ahead of the Phoenix Bowl, they can pick who they want from the Big Ten that's remaining after the other ones above them have taken their picks.
Yes and no. I've had a million discussions about the Big Ten and their bowl arrangement with their bowl counterparts. Because every year it's a retread story, right? And there is consultation between the bowls and the Big Ten Conference, so it doesn't go one way or the other. This has happened continuously to Minnesota. I'm not going to go through all the examples. I don't even remember them, but trust me, guys, it happens almost every year for Minnesota. And there was complaints from the University of Minnesota. There was complaints from beat writers and boosters and everything saying it must be a Mark Coyle thing. He must not be fighting. He must not be, because we're always getting screwed. It must be a Minnesota issue. And the people at Minnesota has explained it to the Minnesota beat writers. No, we put our best effort forward. They let us know we're always in communication with the Big Ten. The Big Ten is always consulting with the Bulls, and not one entity is calling all the shots on this. So in some ways, it's alleviated the pressure off of Minnesota that we've gotten this answer. But in another way, it's like this happens all the time. And it shouldn't happen all the time, because supposedly we've been told, no, the Bulls do not automatically call all the shots on who gets to go where. And Tough Tony says, Bulls can take teams with one loss. For example, the Las Vegas Bulls can't take a 6-6 Penn State over an 8-4 Illinois. We've also been told that as well. But again, we've also been told that it's conference record that is really more important. And Nebraska is one game behind Minnesota, and we've got the tiebreaker. So it essentially is 2 games. So anyway, I'm going to drop it. I'm not going to piss and moan anymore about it. I'm not going to try this for this week. But I would love one time for Minnesota to be elevated. One time, Tough Tony. One time, and it's never happened. And that's got Gopher people pissed off at Tony Petitti. Tony Petitti, one time, elevate us. One time. Just do it one time. Sorry, Rick. Go ahead, sir.
No, that's fine. I would, I would feel the same way. I don't understand why they can't make the decision process public.
Yeah.
Why are they hiding it?
There's a lot of other. I just think it's a lot of. There's a lot that goes into it. For example, a bowl doesn't. They don't want a return trip. They don't want a back-to-back thing. Some bowls in their contract with the Big Ten is like, we will not accept a team. We're only going to accept a team once every 5 years cycle, something to that effect. So then you got to, like Nebraska went to the first bowl game in many, 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 many years last year, and it was to the Pinstripe. So they can't go to the Pinstripe. So there's a lot of that stuff going on as well. But anyways, I don't think people want to hear me complain about the Gophers getting screwed. But go ahead, Rick.
Okay, well, let's move on to Kalane. I think he's too much of a gentleman to not entertain Penn State's generous offer. You can't not treat them seriously with what they're talking about, being the highest paid coach in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That's you've got to take that under consideration, albeit a distraction for a man who's trying to get his team ready for the Big 12 championship and potentially the playoffs if he wins. So, he'd probably like to say, postpone it. But the real question I had for you is, I don't believe for a second, not 1 second, that Penn State had all of this planned out the day that they fired James Franklin. I don't think the day that they fired him, they said, okay, before we fire him, let's come up with our list of our top 10. And then they did it. And then they fired him. And then they said, Kalane Sitake is our number 1 on our list of the top 10 in October. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, they might have had, in large part, I agree with that. I think they have been following probably their plan from the beginning, and they have a couple of exit ramps built into it. And, that's what I put out I'm going to show you a tweet that a post I put out. Jeez, it was early in the morning. Really early in the morning. Here, this was at 12:59 a.m. this morning. All right, 12:59 a.m. I said, I don't understand how anyone, any reporter, can be critical of Penn State's coaching search process at this time just because they haven't hired a coach yet and you don't know who they're interviewing. Let it play out. Now, about an hour previous to this post, I had heard that the Sitake thing was real. 12:59 a.m. I put this out there because I heard Josh Pate, and I like Josh Pate. I like his personality, like him as a person, but he was criticizing Penn State's process because they haven't hired a coach yet. And it's like, just because you're a little bit... Penn State is following they're going after the number one target, and if he says no to them, they'll go to the number two target. And there's nothing wrong with that, even if it lasts a little bit longer than Florida's process, than Auburn's process. I don't know, man. I wait till... Let's see the result of this process before we rip the process. I think Penn State is probably doing exactly what they had planned to do all along. I largely agree with you, Rick.
Well, I disagree. I think that they may not have had anyone picked out in October on a top 5 list. That they, out of frustration, fired Franklin and then decided, okay, we'll deal with this tomorrow. And then the next tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But whatever the top 5 list was in October, I don't believe for one damn second that Kalane Sitake was on the top of the list and that Jeff Brom was number 2.
Maybe not. I
mean, we're talking Penn State. So my real question to you is, and I know you don't know the answer. I guess I'm throwing it out to everybody listening. Yeah, who were the coaches on their list, the real ones, that they weren't able to obtain? Who do they really want?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, we're all speculating on that. I don't know because, you go through an interview process and you kind of quickly find out who's really interested in the job or not. And that's a big part of the process. Who is interested in coming here or who is just doing this for leverage? And maybe Drinkwitz wasn't really interested. Lane Kiffin definitely was not interested. Josh Heupel probably wasn't interested. So, you
Well, you definitely whittle it down because you have no choice but to whittle it down.
Yep.
But you can also do all of this before you fire your head coach.
Yep.
I think they wet the bed.
I
think they're changing it. I don't believe for a second Kalane Sitake or Jeff Brom was in anyone's plans as the big announcement as the new head coach for Penn State. But we can see what other people think of it.
All right. Appreciate it, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
You got it.
Call from
Dave B.
Dave B, BYU Cougar. Can you hold on for a moment, please?
I sure can. Thanks, Greg.
I just got to get to some of these comments here. Holy smokes. My goodness. You should criticize them. Scott Grable, Alabama Crimson Tide. You should criticize them signing days in 2 days. There's value in getting your head coach signed earlier. There's value in that. I'm not going to deny that, but that can't lead you to your ultimate destination. That alone, I mean, if you really think Kalane Sitake is worth waiting this long and you've got a couple of exit ramps that you're comfortable with, then yes, you miss out on the signing day, Wednesday signing day, but, if you get the right guy, you're going to overcome that. John News, Greg, Penn State guy, we are looking worse than Florida State and Kiffin. I don't agree. I don't see that at all. I don't know what's the Penn State is going after they've got a top target. They're going after him. They may not get him. That's what happens in life, guys. You go after the guy that you want. If you don't get him, you have set up a backup plan. Now, he might not have been the number one guy at the beginning, like Rick says, but they probably were wowed by this guy. Look what he has done for 2 years in a row. Remember, Penn State fired Franklin early in the season. They've seen what Sitake has done once again with BYU. And they probably have gotten great interest back from Sitake. And then you've got boosters clamoring and talking about it. And you've got, it's a process. And just because Penn State process has been a little bit longer than the others, I don't think it necessarily means it's been bad or it's going to end up with bad results. Now, I happen to think that Jeff Brom, and I've talked about Jeff Brom 1,000 times on this program, this guy does more with less. He does. And I'm wondering, what does he do can he do more with more at Penn State? I don't know the answer to it. But I tell you what, if he goes to Penn State, that offense is changing on day one. That offense is going to a West Coast offense on day one where Jeff Brom doesn't need all the big tight ends to protect the quarterback. The quarterback has to make the quick decisions. A completely different offense is going to be played at Penn State, and who knows, maybe it's going to work greatly. You guys are really being critical about Penn State, and I'm not there. Penn State is not a dream job. Holy smokes. Feinbaum would have gone to commercial by now. Wow. Okay, Dave B, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it, sir. The floor is absolutely yours.
Yeah, thanks so much, Greg. And you do a good job handling all this traffic. Stuff that's going on. I always look to the pop-up on my phone that YouTube's going live here. But it's funny how there's parallels to Lavelle Edwards. It was the pre-hype, pre-internet era, but he, very early 80s after Jim McMahon was setting records, the Detroit Lions were courting him. Sure enough, we all forgot about it, and he won a national title a couple of years later. So I guess that is that's the dream for the BYU fans here. But I think there was a text, a couple minutes ago on the screen. I don't think Penn State's been bad at all here. I mean, I looked at the Lane Kiffin stuff, and it just looked like mainly Kiffin induced, but that looked like a real mess. Everybody seems to have been classy here.
Yeah, I think everyone is just keeping their head down, and Sitake has a team to coach this Saturday, and I don't think he's threatening Penn State, and I don't think Penn State is threatening him. I think Penn State probably has a backup plan, probably has 2 backup plans, and they're just going to go through the process. But baby, a lot of people are ready to bury Penn State on this. And first of all, I don't know. I have been so impressed with BYU and Kalane Sitake that if Penn State ends up getting him, I think Penn State has done a fabulous job with their process. And if Sitake leaves BYU, he's leaving it a lot better than when he got there. I mean, BYU is very, very impressive. And you know that, Dave B, you got to know that BYU is doing everything they can to keep Sitake, and they might be able to do that. And if they lose him, they've got their plan ready to go on what they're going to do next. So, but go ahead, sir. Let us know what you think that is.
Yeah, and I think so as well. And sure enough, like, it wasn't expected. This is very similar to when Mark Hope left for Kentucky, where he played basketball. He was LDS, took the Kentucky job, and we didn't even know there was a plan B. And all of a sudden, Kevin Young came over, a top NBA assistant, interviewing for head coaching jobs, and BYU's in the top 10 in men's basketball 14 months later. But Sitake's value has never been higher. And for full disclosure here, I'm a non-LDS BYU fan. Mm-hmm. And, for many years, there was some doubt there. Could the 10-win seasons continue in a power conference? Of course not, the naysayers said, but year 2 and 3 in a power conference, 22-3. And that's with players not as restrictive as Army, Navy, Air Force, but it's players that need to pledge, whether they're 100% compliant. Most of them are, some aren't. They need to have a lot more virtue than most of us wanted to use in university or exercise in university, and that reduces who you can recruit. And Sitake's that special guy. Is not most of the guys are religious, and a high portion of that's LDS, but he manages to rally everybody. And Kevin Young does that in basketball as well. Young uses more the NBA dream. That's often there's a 1 or 2 year college career before NBA, and Sitake has that. So he's at the top of his appeal right now. I don't know how that would translate. Like you mentioned, Jeff Brom, he has an offense he'd bring from Louisville to Penn State and install it immediately. Sitake, he leverages his coaches quite a bit, and he's a defensive guy, but he lets Jay Hill run with it. He really is a leader rather than a play caller. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That doesn't mean it wouldn't work. It may work fantastic. He could be the greatest coach ever, or maybe not. But he's at the peak of his value now. I wish him well if he goes, because I think you were asking about a plan B. I think there is one there, and I think Jay Hill would be a heck of a coach, and it's a lot better spot than 9 years ago when Bronco Mendenhall, and I wasn't a huge fan, but he left BYU after 12-ish years, and he left the week of the bowl game, the only bowl game ever against Utah, and not everybody may know how that went, but they got into the bowl game after Bronco flying back and forth and setting up jobs for some of his staff. Utah was up 35-0 8 minutes in the Las Vegas Bowl. So I think Kalane would handle that better. And to Penn State's credit, maybe they were holding off, waiting to see if BYU had lost a game or lost even a tiebreaker at 7-2 in the conference. Heck, they did the right thing, and it's to the end of the BYU regular season. Sitake's fair game, so they may actually have held out. And if he is choice number one, they actually gave him the benefit of the doubt. But we'll see what happens. I think there's BYU's got a puncher's chance this weekend. I really think Texas Tech is a top 5 team.
Yeah.
So they could lose, and it doesn't mean they're not a top 7 or 8 team, but we'll see what happens.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate the phone call, sir.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
BYU Cougar, Dave B. Brilliant. Yeah, great call by Dave B.
Call from
Tristan 5.
Tristan 5, can you just hold on for 1 minute, please?
Yes.
I thank you. I just want to put out this thought again. At the beginning of the program, I understood it from Penn State's point of view on why they're doing this. I understand it. But from Kalane Sitake, I put out the reasons why, I think why he would be interested. But then I put out some thoughts on why, man, he's got a really good thing going. And he has built that thing, and BYU is they're all bought in. And but I also kind of put up the question of, is there something missing that Kalane Sitake is not getting from BYU? Now, it looks like, according to some reports tonight, that BYU has put out a pretty big offer. So maybe it's not money, maybe it's not coaching staff salary, maybe it's something that BYU cannot cure. For example, what if it's something to do with the fact that Kalane Sitake is not confident or comfortable in playoff access for BYU? Like, the only way we could get to the playoffs if we win this conference. And it's not going to change anytime soon. And according to the reports from Barstool, they're saying that could be like that, or was it Barstool or was it somebody else? Some report tonight that said that it has BYU being slighted has affected Kalane Sitake. So maybe there is something there that BYU cannot overcome. I do not know, and maybe that's why we're so far along in the process. Tristan, I appreciate you calling, sir. Appreciate you waiting. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate you taking my call. Hey, listen, I want to ask a question or two and then make a prediction. So we know that it's BYU in the Big 12 championship game. And who are they playing again?
Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Greg, do you think that if BYU were to win that game, and then as a follow-up, if Georgia was to beat Alabama, do you think that BYU would get in over Alabama into the playoff?
Well, BYU wins. They're in.
They're in because they're a conference champ.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. So that
okay.
Yeah.
So is there a thought process that Alabama needs to win the SEC championship game to get into the playoff, or do you think that they're assured of a spot?
I think that if they lose a competitive game, they're still going to be in the playoffs as long as BYU loses to Texas Tech.
Okay.
But if BYU beats Texas Tech, then Alabama probably is a team that's out.
Unless they win.
Unless they win. Yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
that's kind of what I wanted to nail down. That's why I was asking these questions. So here's my prediction, and I'm going to lob a couple of grenades here, Greg.
Yep.
I think that if BYU wins that game, the SEC is going to see to it that Alabama beats Georgia. That's my opinion. You're going to see whatever calls need to be made, and I'm just going to remind the audience of Auburn, Oklahoma, and then Auburn, Georgia. And the SEC has this way sometimes of making sure that a certain team wins or someone else loses. And I am so fed up with the way they run their business. I mean, the manipulations, and you were talking about how the press is always speaking from this narrative.
Yeah.
And Greg, I'm just sick of all that.
Yeah.
And they manipulate everything, including these games. And I'm just telling you right now, that's my prediction. I know this only represents my own opinion, but they will, if BYU finds a way to win that game, Alabama will beat Georgia no matter what.
Wow.
And Greg, you know what? They might win that game anyway because Georgia has problems against Alabama. They never seem to be able to beat them. But if BYU does win and Alabama finds themselves needing some help from the refs, they'll get that help, Greg. That's my prediction. That's my prediction. So anyway, listen, I just wanted to throw that out there, give you an early prediction on that game, and but otherwise, keep up the good work, and I'll talk to you later.
I appreciate it, sir. Great
Thanks,
phone
Greg.
call.
Bye-bye.
Great phone call. I don't think this.
From.
I'm sorry, who's the call from?
This is Wild Ute.
Wild Ute, can you hold for 1 minute, please?
Go ahead.
We got breaking news. Kalane Sports, a betting site, has got Kalane Sitake has surged to a 65% chance to become the next head coach of Penn State football. It is shot straight up. DeBoer is second at 13%. Manny Diaz at 13%. Terry Smith, the interim head coach of Penn State, at 11%. Kalane Sitake is at 65%. That's a pretty good segue to the Wild Ute, the Utah Ute man. Wild Ute, go ahead, sir. The floor is yours. Thank you for your patience. What do you think is going on, sir?
Nothing like opining on your rival here, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that betting site that you're referencing, it might be a different one than I saw earlier, but that thing's been swinging that line. Probability has been going up and down over the last 12 hours. I think there was one betting line that was over 90% earlier today. That's probably fallen back, and I just wanted to give some thoughts on this too. I don't see Sitake leaving. I don't. I think that with all the pressure that's kind of and all the support that's kind of going in right now to him, it's hard to see him leave. He's going to get a big pay bump. Estimates are saying that before these recent talks, that his salary was between $3 or $4 million a year at BYU, and that Penn State came in with a 8-figure salary, around $11 million or $12 million.
Yeah.
So you're talking you're talking more than double, maybe a 3 times pay increase.
Yeah.
And that's not including the salary pool for the assistant coaches. And so it's a massive jump. I think BYU won't be able to match the whole thing, but they will get halfway there, maybe more, and then there'll be more commitments for the assistant coach pool. But I just don't see it working for him out there. He's more of a mountain guy, a West Coast guy. He had an Oregon State job before he took the BYU job. He was actually the offensive coordinator at Utah for years under Whittingham.
Mm-hmm.
He's a Whittingham disciple.
Yeah.
Kyle Whittingham disciple. And he had some success at Oregon State, but nothing like he's had at BYU in this hot run that he's been on the last couple of years.
Yep.
And I just, with the pressure of the Penn State job, with being on the East Coast, with the Big Ten being unfamiliar territory, I just don't see it going well for him. And he's a really good guy, Greg, and stuff.
Yeah.
And it'd be hard to see that and stuff.
No.
It seems like if they're going to run James Franklin out after making freaking playoffs in the Final Four last year,
yeah.
and then really, you really got to think twice about taking that job and the pressure. If you don't perform immediately, you're going to get ran out of town.
Yeah.
I just think that at the end of the day, there's too much support here. BYU lists their salary pools, not to match it, but to get closer and stuff, and he ends up staying. That's how I see it. I'm about 80% confident in that too.
Yep.
And then just to add a thought too, I think Penn State's made a huge blunder firing James Franklin. I'm serious, Greg. Like, there's nobody better. Kalane Sitake is a great coach, but he's not as good as James Franklin. Like James Franklin really, I would imagine there's a massive regret by firing that guy. He was done dirty by Penn State. I'm shocked that he's coaching at Virginia Tech. Man, but I think that's going to really bite Penn State in the butt for years to come, and I think that's a really bad call. But we shall see, won't we?
Yeah. Couple of statements. There's a difference between, is this a good move by Sitake? Would this be a good move by Sitake to go to Penn State? Versus, is he really interested in going there? Right? Those are two different arguments to make. Is he really interested in going, and is it really a good decision if he did go?
Yeah.
I think the part where is it a really good decision if he went? I think that is a very good. I think that's a very good point. I don't know if that's the best move for Sitake. But on the question, is he really interested in going? I think he really is.
Definitely is. 100%.
I think he really is. So that's why I think it would not, of course, it would not surprise me either way. But this is a serious thing. That's why I posted a door open to me last night, Wild Ute, and you have seen reports out saying that he's a top target. All that is serious. Like it's reality. It's not just people, whatever. So that's one.
And I think, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think where it fits is like philosophically with who Penn State is and who Sitake is, and even like who Whittingham is too. And who, like, you've got these defensive-minded teams like a Penn State. That's who Penn State is.
Yeah.
They run the football. They play physical football. That brand of football transfers.
Yeah.
So Sitake's brand would work. And so, does it fit? Penn State's one of the best jobs in the nation, one of the best fan bases in the nation, with all the resources you'd ever want, and a style of football that you're used to. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. I will say this about James Franklin. I agree that James Franklin is one hell of a coach. And in the chat room here at PATC, he's the guy that gets vilified a lot. People are ripping on him constantly in the PATC chat room. But he has been one hell of a football coach. However, was it a mistake that Penn State got rid of him? I'm going to say no, Wild Ute. Because they had to get rid of him. Like, they didn't have a choice, and I'll tell you why. Because the boosters were like, get this guy out of here. And in this day and age, unfortunately, and sometimes fortunately, the boosters are ruling the roost on this. Because they had lined up this team, Wild Ute. They had put so much money in Katre Allen, on Nicholas Singleton, on their quarterback, on their line. They got Dennis Sutton, the defensive end back. They got the great safety back. They had all this talent. They brought them all back. They spent so much money on this football team, and they lost to UCLA. They lost to Northwestern. So to me, it became like, is this really a good decision that they got rid of this great coach? It's almost like they didn't even have control of the decision anymore. They were overwhelmed by, get this guy out of here. We're not spending a dime because they spent so much money on this buildup. This Penn State buildup, there was always a chance that it wasn't going to work. It was going to come up short. They weren't going to quite win the Big Ten championship again this year. They quite weren't going to get past the semifinals of the playoffs this year. But they didn't even come close. And one other thing about James Franklin. I know I'm going on a tangent, but I've said this before. James Franklin is a great coach. Virginia Tech's great pickup and everything. But there's something about the guy when it comes to offensive coordinators. He doesn't get along with them. He overrules them. Every offensive coordinator he's gotten, that offensive coordinator has left with their tail between the legs. It did not work out. He's gone through so many of them. So that is one red flag about James Franklin. But I digress. Wow, Jute. What about...
Yeah, I mean, like, that's really good color and context.
Yeah.
Context right there, Greg. Seriously, with all the booster money drying up, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
I guess, like, from the outsider's perspective looking in, like, the guy won a playoff game last year.
Yeah.
Penn State to a height they haven't been since Joe Paterno. And
Yes.
then, like, and seeing that, less than a year later he gets fired, like, that's rough. Man, this is a cutthroat sport.
Yeah. What about, Penn State was up 10-0 on Notre Dame in that semifinal game. 10-0. If they had one more big play that went their way, they could have went to the national championship game. But what about, and you have spoken about this, what if, and we're just speculating here, what if Kalane Sitake is sitting there, and there has been a report out tonight on this, that Kalane Sitake believes that the BYU being slighted in this world of college football, in this current college football playoff format, could that be steering Kalane Sitake towards Penn State? In other words, gosh, this BYU football team, I don't know if I can get it. I don't know if I can repeat this with BYU football. This is my team. We've got a senior laden team. Yeah, we got Bear Bachmeier for 3 more years, but L.J. Martin and Chase Roberts, these guys are not going to be around. This is my best team I may ever have, and I might still not get to the playoffs with this BYU team. Could that be affecting his motivations?
That's 100% in consideration too, because the last 2 years at BYU are some of the best teams they've ever had, and you've got 11 wins and you're not even in the field right now. In the Big 12 conference, it's tough to win football games. People act like it's the American.
Yeah.
But getting 11 wins with the schedule and the gauntlet that BYU had to go through, even Utah getting 10 wins, I'm perfectly happy with 10 wins. I'm bummed that Utah's not going to get in the field.
Yeah.
But man, it's tough.
Yeah, it is.
So it's brutal. It's brutal not getting in the playoff, not even being in the field and being jumped by plenty of 2-loss teams in the SEC and the Big Ten. It would be the Big Ten if there were more 2-loss teams in the Big Ten. So that's definitely weighing in.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's nothing that BYU can correct for Kalane Sitake. It's something that BYU cannot change for Kalane Sitake, if that is what's leading him to this possible decision. One more thing, Phillips, Mr. Wild Jute. I complained about this earlier in the program. I'm not going to bring up my complaints about the Big Ten and the bowl selection, but it looks like it's going to be Utah versus Nebraska in the Las Vegas.
Oh my gosh, Greg. Oh.
Well, listen now.
Why you gotta bring this up, Greg? Oh my God.
Well, listen now. Utah Utes are going to be running for about 350 yards against Nebraska, so that's going to happen. But I guess that's going to be enjoyable for the Utah Utes. But what do you think about that game, Utah and Nebraska?
I think it stinks.
Yeah, it does.
You get 10 wins, and you get to play a 7-5 Nebraska team in the Vegas Bowl. I don't know, Greg. I would rather not even play the game.
Yeah.
And in the Utes mentality, unless it's Whittingham's last game, and it very well might be, because this week, with all this Sitake stuff going on, Whittingham's going to announce if he's retiring or not over the next couple of days. And I'm thinking that does happen too. And so Morgan Scalley, Whittingham might this might be Whittingham's last game coached, and they'll give it all and they'll blow Nebraska out and stuff. But man, it's if you don't get in the playoff field and you've got a 10-win team and you get pinned up versus a Nebraska team without their like superstar quarterback, it's rough, man.
Yeah.
Like that kind of goes back to something we've talked about before in the past too. Like it's like if you don't get in the playoff, it seems like almost a fail kind of for a season. It's not that way. Well, it just like that's just the expectations now.
Yes,
like,
it is.
You didn't get to that level, right? If you don't get to the 12-team playoff, and that's more expensive to get to a 16 or 24-team playoff, you know?
Yeah,
just
it
to open
is.
up the field more.
Yep. All righty, sir. I appreciate your phone call, my man.
Yep, take care.
You got it, buddy. Great call, Wild Ute.
Call from
Fred.
Fred, can you hold on for one moment, please?
Yes, I can.
I very much appreciate it. We've got ourselves a very generous super chat by Heartbreak 25, Mr. We Are Penn State in the PATC family. Heartbreak 25, traveling mood of Penn State fans is that we support but feel like a lateral hire at best and a poor cultural fit. James Franklin was fired for no big wins. Beating Utah, Colorado, SMU doesn't equal Ohio State, Michigan, and Oregon. Yeah, thank you for the $10 holler, Heartbreak 25. The lack of wins against the top teams in the Big Ten. And then, of course, that whole buildup for this season to fall that short. Yeah. Yep. But I'm very interested that Heartbreak 25 saying that the Penn State fans, like, well, Sitake, maybe a poor cultural fit. I don't know. You know, a guy like Sitake, I think he might be able to make his culture. I think he can fit just about anywhere. But you know what? We shall see what happens, Heartbreak 25. Heartbreak 25, I'm interested to hear what you think about Jeff Brom possibly becoming the new head coach of Penn State if the Sitake thing doesn't happen. Let me know in the chat room, Heartbreak 25. Fred, thank you for your call. Thank you for your patience. The floor is yours.
Hey, Greg. If I'm not mistaken, the first favorite that was at least mentioned in the news for the Penn State job was Matt Rule because of his ties to Penn State, and I guess the fans weren't thrilled with that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he signed an extension, so he's out. Jeff Brom was supposed to sign an extension. Do you know, did he?
I don't know if Jeff Brom did or not.
I mean, he was one of their favorites, at least to the Penn State fans.
Yes.
And I think he's an underappreciated coach nationally for what he's accomplished.
Yeah, he's accomplished a lot. Now he's a little bit prickly. He's not great with He's not great with boosters, which was not a problem at Purdue, and it was not It was a problem, but not to great effect at Purdue. It was a problem. And it wasn't going to be a problem at Louisville, of course, because It doesn't matter that he's prickly because he's a hero at Louisville.
Right.
So that might be something to be wary of at Penn State. But yeah, I think he would bring a whole different type of offense at Penn State. One that, Penn State, they have the ability to recruit these unbelievable athletes on defense. Offensive linemen with this running game. The wide receiver recruiting hasn't been incredible, but with Jeff Brom, wide receivers would be very interested in going to Penn State. and because he spreads out the ball, and it might be the perfect fit for Penn State.
Yeah, I think he would, but the fans might not.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: where the fans are right now, they're still holding out hope for the Alabama coach that he's going to lose. He's not going to make the playoffs for the second consecutive year. He's got to take a lot of heat and think that Penn State is okay. If I remember the list that you just read a few minutes ago,
you are.
He was the second favorite.
Yes. That could be. I don't see Kalane DeBoer leaving Alabama on his own.
I don't either.
I don't see anybody leaving Alabama on their own. I think he would wait to get fired because he's still going to get a new. Even if he gets fired from Alabama, let's say after next year, he's going to have a job. He's going to be still valuable in the market, in the job market. Now, Kalane DeBoer has a completely different offense than Jeff Brom. Kalane DeBoer likes to throw the ball downfield. Ty Simpson has given him that ability at Alabama, but that's what he loved at Washington in years before he went to Washington. Kalane DeBoer, I understand why Penn State fans would love to see him up there, but I don't know if he's going to be available.
I would not think so, but they don't want to give up hope until because I think when they think of James Franklin, they really liked him, but after so many years of not winning the big ones, you just get a little grate on the message that the coach keeps trying to give, and it's not working.
Yeah.
So I understand why they do that. I think it's fair to say that their search didn't go quite as they anticipated to start with, because they were one of the first ones to be out there, to be available. And they're one of the last ones to fill their position. So I don't think it really went quite as, but I don't think it's a lost cause at this point. It's just, it's tough, to really line things up early in the process. They're just waiting. They're just talking to agents. They don't know. And what are they going to do?
Yeah.
Now, let me say a little bit about the Kiffin situation, because I think you're going to have this every year. It's a timing issue. Mm-hmm. You have the National Signing Day coming up on Wednesday. No school wants to say, sign with us and we'll tell you later who your coach is going to be.
Yeah.
It's a very competitive situation. And they want to, just like all the ones who've signed up in the last few days, here's the guy who's going to be your coach. And that's a value. And, of course, even more important perhaps, the portal is a week or two in January, and they want the coach on board working, for the players that he wants through the portal. And a coach usually just doesn't come by themselves; they bring people.
Yeah.
So even as you said before about the importance of relationship, if you have a good relationship with an assistant coach, you don't know if that guy's going to be there. If they bring in a new coach. So it's just a critical time, and you can't change the time, I guess, because of when the school quarter or semester starts. They say you got to have the portal now in this particular time. And so it's not the most convenient, but it's the one we have to live with. Yeah. And so any coach, of a really good team, either a coach or assistant coach, who wants to move to a bigger opportunity, is put in the place of, being asked by the press, okay, Penn State says they're interested in you. Are you interested in them? Are they going to say maybe? They usually hem and haw and don't say much. And so it's just a difficult situation, and that's just the reality that people have to live with. We're going to have this all the time. I think a coach has to decide, if it's that really important to him, he just needs to be out front as much as he can be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how you get around it, though.
Well,
Greg, do you have any idea?
Somehow they're going to have to move up the schedule. And I don't know how they're going to do that, but they got to move it up in the second week in August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they'll arrive at that eventually.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of work.
I'll tell you what I would have liked Lane to do, but no coach is going to do this. I'd like him to say to LSU and Florida, look, I've got a team going into the playoffs. I'm not going to make a decision until that season is over for them. If you're still interested in me when it ends, I will consider it. No coach is going to do that because they'll never get hired by the other team because they need to have a coach on board.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Now, in Lane's case, he's taking several key people in addition to himself leaving, and so that creates an extra problem for Ole Miss. But it's just something every year they're going to be – any coach that's really good is going to be at least potentially in the playoffs. And I don't think any coach wants to leave their team when they're going to the playoffs. But you got to make your choice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough, and we're going to see more of this, aren't we?
Well, at least your coach isn't leaving, right?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
All right, Greg.
All right, man.
You take care.
I appreciate it. Great call, sir. Thank you, Fred. Great call once again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We got ourselves another generous super chat from Heartbreak 25. Penn State culture is Joe Paterno. Franklin never fit Paterno culture and split the older fans and the donors. Sitake is a blue-collar West Coaster. Brahm is okay. Thank you for the $5 holla. Heartbreak 25. I very much appreciate your generosity. Thank you so much for your kindness. I appreciate it. We've got another $5 holler from Christopher Hooter, LSU Tiger. Penn State's 3-0 cupcake start was a setup for misplaced enthusiasm. Put some meat on that non-conference schedule going forward. And again, if everybody would simply come on aboard the Army of 24 and support the playoff to 24 with 6 at-large bids, 4, 4, 4, 4, 2, 6, then you're going to have these monster non-conference games because it's going to be the first bite of the apple. And if things go wrong in your non-conference games against big brand schools, then you're going to have the second bite of the apple to get in the playoffs. You finish in the top 4 of your conference. And Penn State's enthusiasm of this year had nothing really to do with their non-conference schedule. It was because they were so good the previous season. They went to the semifinals. They were up 10-0 against Notre Dame. And they had almost everybody coming back. Not everybody, not that great left tackle of 2 years ago, but they had almost everyone else coming back. So it was high expectations for Penn State. That's why Josh Heupel's comments made no sense today. This comment. Thank you for the $5 holler. Appreciate it, Christopher Hooter. Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel tells Chris Lowe that he's not a candidate for Penn State. I wouldn't want low expectations. No idea what, I don't know. Some of these coaches, man, again, if you don't want to be a candidate for Penn State, that's fine. But to say that Penn State has low expectations, Lorda. Christopher Hooter, thank you for the $5 holler. I appreciate it so very much. Zach Seco, Nittany Lions host, Lock On Football, posted this earlier this evening. Todd McShay went on Bill Simmons' podcast today to shed some light on the Penn State coaching search. McShay basically said that Jimmy Sexton has gone to war with Pat Kraft, the athletic director of Penn State, because of James Franklin being fired. So Sexton is making it practically impossible for Penn State to hire someone worthwhile. Again, one of the great dangers to the sport that we love, college football, is the power agents and the lawyers that advocate for them on X and on message boards. Keep an eye out for that. The top agents want to control this sport just like they control Major League Baseball. I'm just putting that out there once again. And I believe I'm correct on this. Kalane, Sitake, and Jeff Brom are not Jimmy Sexton. Jimmy Sexton is not their agent. I believe I'm correct. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you all joining us today. Again, if you love college football like we love college football, please subscribe to this National College Football YouTube channel, College Football Peek Around the Corner. And if you do subscribe, make sure you ring that notification bell, because we can come on live at any time. Morning, noon, nighttime, midnight. I want to thank MBM, Buck Wargo, Carson, Heartbreak 25, and Christopher Hooter for your generosity. I very much appreciate it. Your support for helping us keep the lights on and grow the channel. The wonderful phone calls, the great comments in the comments section. Thank you so very much. Again, we're going to be following this story. And tomorrow, we are going to be talking about the conference championship games. There is a lot of them that are toss-ups. Literal toss-ups. A lot of great games going to be happening in the 10 conference games that make up the FBS. And I cannot wait. Hopefully you guys are all jacked up for it as well. We are going to be talking about the conference championship games and anything else that pops up in this drama that we love, college football. So until next time, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family,